And we're live with another episode of The Focal Thought. And my guest today is Martin Parker. How are you, Martin? How you doing?
I'm great. Gordon, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for asking. So I'm really excited to do this podcast. I really wanted to get you on the show because of two things. I saw you signed up for Speaker Slam, which is,
Yeah,
quite the speaking competition in Durham. It's got an all-star list of local people who live in Durham, Oshawa, Whitby, etc., and even surrounding GTA. And the
yeah,
goal of that is to do a speech, something that you're passionate about. You give a topic, and then they have sort of like a competition series where you can be first, second, third place winner. So it's great for that. It's sort of like
yeah.
Toastmasters with the edge. And then I saw you on the I think it's the Canadian Physique Alliance, where you had done some bodybuilding, and from the before and after pictures, I mean, you just crushed it. The body slash health transformation that you did was just amazing.
Thank
And
you.
now to some people this would be sort of like ordinary feats, but I guess what people might not know is that you're actually working and dealing with Parkinson's, right?
Yes, young
Okay,
onset Parkinson's. Second.
for sure. And that's why I wanted to get you on the show because it's one thing to do these things, and when you do these sort of events, speaking series and bodybuilding competitions, you're dealing with just the nature of the sport itself. But here you're dealing not only with the nature of the sport, but you're dealing with getting to a mindset beforehand just to get to be able to deal with the sport. So I just wanted to ask, I mean, when was the first time you found out you had Parkinson's, and what was that like?
Uh, the first time I didn't even know what was going on with me at first. I remember I was just sitting at the computer and I went to stretch my pinky out to hit the A key on keyboard on just a normal regular PC computer, and I couldn't do it. It was a little difficult, and then I started when I was jogging and stuff. My foot would start to curl up, and I didn't know why. And and the problem in my left side began to continue without being able to stretch my hand out and mobility. My fine motor skills started to go in my hand, and it came to a point where my wife at the time saw me having trouble not being able to fish change out of my pocket to pay the cashier at Zeller's. So that's a little bit of a timeline of how long it is, how long it's been. I was at Zeller's, and so it started this like year and a half journey, not knowing what was going on because I was so young. And Parkinson's isn't typically something that happens to somebody young, although it's happening more and more nowadays, it seems. And I'd go for massages and things like that. And finally, one day, the guy, my doctor in Oshawa, said, "I don't know what's wrong with you. Maybe I can send you to Toronto Western Hospital." And he sent me to Toronto Western Hospital, and that's where I met up with Dr. Maris there. And she did these simple tests, and she said, "You might have Parkinson's." And I said, "Oh,
Did you
okay."
know what it was at the time? Or?
I knew what Parkinson's was. I only knew that, Michael J. Fox.
Yeah.
And to me, Parkinson's was just shaking. And all I saw was shaking. But it's generally the shaking is just part of it. Slow movement and the curling of my foot was all a symptom of Parkinson's. And so it's progressive disease. It keeps going day by day. And so she gave me some medication and sent me home and said, if this works, it works. And that's what you have. Because I went for MRIs and I went for CAT scans, and there's no, there's no way you can see it with X-rays or CAT scans. So when they were first trying to figure out what's wrong with me, my doctor said, "Good news, we didn't find anything, but bad news, we didn't find anything."
Yeah.
Oh, so yeah, so I went home and tried these meds, and these meds were working somewhat. It made it a little more manageable. So yeah, so that's how I first figured out. I was 32 years old, and my daughter was, I guess she was 1 or 2.
1 or 2. Okay. And for those that might not know, so Parkinson's, I guess, is degenerative sort of malfunction of the central nervous system, right? That affects motor skills. So that's why I guess
Uh,
the shaking is a symptom, a physical symptom.
yeah, quite simply, it's dopamine in your system. It's a lack of dopamine. I don't have. Uh, Everybody's got normal dopamine, and essentially, what dopamine is the way I explain it is like a wire. So when you go to turn a light on, the electricity travels from the light switch to the light, and it turns on the light. Well, dopamine is a wire from your brain to your hand, telling it to move. So I have a lack of that, so I have a short. So the meds that I take is a synthetic form of dopamine that gives me more dopamine to make my movements smoother and more effective.
That's interesting. So is this the same dopamine that we associate with, the pleasure chemicals of the brain? So the one that's responsible for motivation?
Absolutely, it's that. Um, so it comes with a lot of other things too, like mood disorders, like depression and things. Some of my videos that I've put online deals with that. When my dopamine is low and I can't move properly, sometimes my thoughts get really, really dark, and I have to wait until I get my medication, which is called carbidopa levodopa, in my system, and hopefully, when as my mobility improves, my mood improves, and I come back and things are kind of normal. So
And with your thoughts going to to that area,
right.
is it something where because of the lack of the chemical, it's chemically going there, or will any sort of awareness help you prevent it from going there?
Oh, well, because I'm aware that it's chemical, I can keep telling myself that. But if you didn't know and you weren't aware of it, weren't experienced with it, you might be able to make some pretty bad decisions.
Got it, got it.
Uh,
So you have to sort of keep yourself in check.
yeah,
And then
they're
when
always.
you, sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
no, I was gonna ask. So when you found this out, you came back, you took some medication, and it seemed to be okay. So what happened after that then?
Well, I continued on at work. I didn't know how long. I used to work at security at GM Oshawa, and I used to work at the security fire department there. And it got to the point where um, I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't do the night shifts, and I couldn't do the shift work, and it wasn't safe for me to. It was a liability to be there, so I had to go and take disability. And since then, I've been living my life.
No, that's good of you to say that way, living your life, because some people might take the reaction of having this and become the victim immediately. But then
Right.
there are those I've seen, and you're definitely one of them, who's taken it and you haven't become the victim. In fact, you you've got the mindset of the victor, and you're doing these things to, I guess, overcome that adversity, and also
Right.
to physically challenge yourself to keep your body and your health strong. Did you always have this sort of fighter mindset, or is it something you had to develop because of this?
I've always been stubborn. Um, when somebody's, I've always kind of had the mindset if somebody told me I couldn't do something or somebody told me to do something, I'd want to do the opposite. And it doesn't always, wasn't always a good character trait. Got me into a lot of trouble sometimes. But yeah, when somebody tells me I can't do something, I like to prove them wrong. I'm a little bit of a competitor,
Yeah.
and I didn't like to lose. I could accept it, but I didn't like it. And yeah, I kind of lost that a little bit when when I was off. When I finally surrendered to it and was off on disability, I actually tried photography and things like that. I actually tried to build an app for um, entertainment and music, the music scene downtown Oshawa, and tried to spread it out to the GTA and things like that. Things were going really well, but then it became too much of a party, and I ended up almost hurting myself and ended up upside down in a ditch in my car, not knowing how I got there. And that's also due to some of the medication I was taking. I wasn't honest with my doctor, and that was one of the dangers, side effects of the medication because of the dopamine and the psychological aspects that you're saying. Um, I had an overcharge of dopamine, and my impulse controls and things like that were all out of whack. So psychologically, I wasn't all right. I wasn't being honest about it. And then, so that was it for that business, hanging out at bars and things like that. And I took maybe a 5 year hiatus to get better, um, get sober, and get my mind right again. That's when I decided I needed to go. I was working out through after I got sober a little bit. And I joined the gym in Oshawa here, and then I decided I needed a goal. That things were flat, so I had a friend that was willing to help me, and that's how I started the whole uh, Canadian Physique Alliance Coburg Naturals competition. Something I had never done before.
Yeah, and from the pictures, I encourage anyone to look at the pictures. It's amazing, because not only did you sort of sculpt and shape your body into sort of, a basic strength physique image, you actually went the extra mile and, you got it into like a shred bodybuilding image, like sculpting it that
Oh,
way, which and is not easy to do. I mean, from what I've read anyway, it takes
oh,
dedication and perseverance and with what you're dealing with, that's the second hill from the first existing hill, right?
thanks. Yeah, it was tough when you trying to even unlearn. When my friend, who's also my coach, he said you can't eat apples. I said, what? You can't eat apples because it's sugar, and sugar hurts your cuts, and it takes away from your physique. So any kind of fruit, like your whole life, your mom tells you to eat your fruit and vegetables, and now you got to unlearn that, and you still got to work out with low carbs. You're in a systematic form of starvation, and that's also weird on your psychology as well, because you just want to eat anything in sight, and you got to identify things, why you're hungry, and if you eat that, you're going to eat more, and things like that.
Correct. And so it's taking total nutritional sacrifice to get that end result, and mental sacrifice too, of succumbing to the desires and pleasures, right?
Absolutely. So if you got your goal in mind and you focus on it, it's like anything, right? You just you got to jump through. And with COVID and everything, it was even harder because They kept moving the competition.
Yeah.
It was supposed. I had one in August, and that one was canceled. And then I had one in it was supposed to be September, and then they moved it to October. Ended up getting a little leaner than I wanted to because I was on the diet for so long. But that's okay. I'm back and working on it again. I don't know if I'll do another one, but we'll see.
No, that's great because, if you're in the business, like say if you're a UFC fighter, you're constantly conditioning and strength training and, cutting fat for competition. So it's just fine tuning for them. But for
Yeah.
you, it's a whole process. And then for them to extend those dates, something as little as a week could feel like a month. How long was the whole process for that transformation?
Well, I started when I finally decided I want to do it. It was February, um, pretty much a year ago, and I told them I wanted to do it. And I was at around 215 pounds, and when it was all said and done, I was 180. So
Wow.
I dropped 35 pounds in, is it 6 months? This doesn't seem a lot, but you got to keep muscle and things like that too. That's the challenge. You lose a lot of, you can lose a lot of fat, but if you lose muscle, you're not going to look good at all. So
Yeah, there's a proper science to it.
yeah, now I'm back at 210 pounds. I feel a little better. Like near the end of it, I couldn't. Like you look great and you feel okay, but little things like sitting on a park bench, it hurts because you got absolutely no fat on your body. So if you sit down too fast on a park bench, with your daughter in the park, and you feel your spine crack against the back, it's
Wow.
yeah, it's a lot different feeling. I used to be, uh, I guess at my heaviest, I was 310 pounds.
We call it the dad bod.
Yeah, dad bod, exactly.
I wanted to ask you, so I guess from that timeline, when you found yourself in that ditch and you decided to, get things together and sobered up and you found a vision and a purpose, what were some of the tools you use to motivate yourself? Did you follow any specific mentors or were you listening to audiobooks or how did you do that?
Well, I had a lot of support from my family, which is great. Uh, I joined a 12-step program that I'm not allowed to say the name of because
Sure.
I'm pretty sure you can figure out it's 12 steps. And that was the biggest thing. The biggest thing to me was admitting that I had a problem. All through the years, even before I had Parkinson's, I drank funny. I didn't drink every day, but when I drank and it was time to drink, I got out of hand. And after I was diagnosed with Parkinson's, the fear and all this, uh, my confidence left, and all this fear came rushing into me, and I couldn't deal with it. So on top of the meds and everything like that, I drank more and did things that I never thought I'd do, and that's how I ended up in the ditch. But yeah, the 12-step program and family, and I was in a relationship uh, at that time, and she was pretty supportive, and yeah, so I guess all you just have to wake up and you have to say not today every day. It's just not today. I'm not going to do that today. You got to find different ways to do things, different ways to deal with emotions, um, different ways to deal with stress. There's a lot of people who like to go out at the end of the week or whatever and go have a glass of wine or five or six. But when that's not an option anymore, you got to find other things to do. And you
Yeah.
have to be helpful. You can't hurt other people doing it, right? And you got to figure out how to live your life. Like that whole 12-step program, it isn't just about not drinking. It's about uh, living your life without it. Because a lot of people who are alcoholics or abuse substances, they don't have a problem with the substance or alcohol itself. They have a problem with themselves dealing with things, and that's where they don't know how to deal on a normal level sober. So they have to learn that. They have to learn to deal life on life's terms, they call it. So,
Yeah.
and that's
And
when you
live.
just realize that.
No,
And
I was
that's
going to
when you
say,
just
and live
realize
life according to your terms as well, right? According to your purpose.
exactly, yeah. And just got to realize that there is no bad life. The life is just life. You just get on with it and you deal with things because things are going to come that aren't going to seem fair, but that's yours to deal with. And you can reach out for help or you can't, or you don't.
And there's, bad things that come from good things, and good things that can come from bad things. I mean, that reminds me of that post you've got on your Facebook that you shared, I think, from Alan Watts, who tells the story of the Chinese farmer.
Oh yeah, I love that. That's my favorite story.
Yeah. And just to, quickly summarize for the audience, if you haven't seen that, it's basically, you know, um, this farmer who has his, I think it's his horse that runs away, and then the village comes up to him and says, your horse ran away. Is that that's a bad thing? And he says maybe. And then something happens with his son, and the son breaks his leg. And then again, that village comes up to him and says, hey, that's a bad thing. And then the farmer responds again, maybe.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I guess the army comes to his door to draft the son. But when they see the son has a broken leg, they pass up on him. And the village again comes to the farmer and says, hey, that's a good thing. And the farmer again responds, maybe.
Yeah.
Alan Watts is amazing. I mean, for those who haven't heard him, definitely check him out. But that
He's
goes
got
to
a
show,
lot of,
like, the blessings in life, they come when you least expect it. And he mentions in there, I mean, nature is so immensely complex that we really don't know what good is going to come from bad, nor on the flip side, what bad's going to come from good, right?
absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't have reached these goals if I hadn't ended up in that ditch. I wouldn't have yeah, I wouldn't have found out all these things. I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I wasn't in this ditch. Didn't end up in that ditch doing those things. There's so many things that taught me how to be a better father, taught me how to be a better son, a better brother. My relationships with everybody else is better. And learning how to socialize without alcohol, that was a whole different thing. I think I'm getting the hang of it, but I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard also. I also think that, with addiction, you know, addiction gets bad when you're addicted to the wrong things as an extreme. But
Absolutely.
addiction to the right things, and once again, not in an extreme, but just in moderation, it's good to channel that emotion, because really at the base of it, it's just emotional management. When you get emotional, do you take it out on the pub, or do you go and read an empowering book, right? So if you
Right.
condition yourself to be addicted to empowering habits, and again, not to an extreme, because it's the extreme that also can get you away from the path. If you can train
Oh, yeah.
yourself to do that, because it's a lot of peer pressure, like going up through school and high school, it's everyone drinking, your friends drinking. In the work culture, going to the pub after work, it's in society, right?
Well, this is one of the big problems. One of the reasons why I was the way I was is because I was emotionally stunted and socially stunted because I started partying and drinking at age 13. So that's when you are always you're just trying to find your way in the world. You're trying to find where you belong in your peer groups. You mature and you learn how to talk to girls and develop relationships and with friends. And if you're doing that with drinking every weekend and partying, you never get out of that. You don't know how to do it without it. So you just continue on. That's what they say about alcoholics and substance abusers. they are they don't grow up. They stopped emotionally and mentally growing they were when they started drinking, and they haven't developed since then. So that's what the 12-step program is all about. Getting you past that drinking and helping you grow up and dealing with life on nice terms, as I say, and being a good person, honest person.
And honest with yourself, right? Who you are and who you want to be.
Absolutely.
What is the relationship like with your daughter? Because she's of age now. She knows you have this,
Yeah.
and I see from your Facebook posts like she's giving you cards with hearts on them, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of affection and love back and forth, from her to you and you from her. What's that relationship like right now?
Well, it's very open. I remember one day I just told her about the whole situation. She asked why you don't drink. Why don't you drink beer, Dad? Why don't you? And I told her, I said, sweetheart, I remember walking down the street and I said, Dad can't do that anymore. He he almost died. And I told her the whole story, and I was open and honest with her. And when I told my ex-wife, she was kind of like, "Ooh, you told her that?" I said, "Yeah, I think it was time. I think it was. I thought she could handle it, and I don't want to. I don't like to sugarcoat things with her because she's gonna find out anyways.
Yeah.
And I don't want this big veil of. I don't want her growing up thinking her dad was a perfect guy because she'll grow up thinking that she's got to be perfect. She'll take that to her. And on top of that, she'll think that when I do have we're obviously going to get into some skirmishes when she gets older about who she's hanging out with and what she's doing. And I want her to know that I've been there. I want her to know that I didn't just, I wasn't just born a grown up. I've been there where she is right now. I don't want her to feel that. I'm talking from experience. As long as she knows that, and she won't be scared to call me when she's in a bad situation. She won't be scared to say, "Oh, I tried this. I tried drinking and I drank a little too much, or I tried smoking this, and now I'm feeling bad. But I don't want to call my dad because he's going to get me in trouble. I'd rather her learn if she's going to do things like that. I'd rather her learn her lesson and then think that her dad's a safe place if something goes wrong.
Oh,
Because
that's good.
I know when I was a kid, I was scared to death. I didn't want to get in trouble. So I like to keep it open with her, and hopefully that pans out in the future. But I guess we'll see.
Yeah, no,
But
you're right.
yes,
Every child needs that safe place, and by you being honest with her from the get-go, you've immediately established that trust with her that she can rely on you as a safe place for herself.
yeah, yeah. I'm hoping that's how it goes. But yeah, her and I have a great relationship. We like going to Fan Expo together. My favorite show is Corner Gas. Met all the cast from Corner Gas. A 9-year-old who likes Corner Gas. She's pretty amazing. She gets the humor. She's got a dry sense of humor like her dad. So
Yeah, no, you've got a great sense of humor. I like it.
thanks.
What I mean, like your lessons will save her in her life from a lot of lessons, I'm sure. But her
Yeah.
first hand being able to see what you're doing, what you've accomplished, and if she has any issues, to come to you as a safe place. In terms of her emotionally being able to manage this, have you sort of said anything or done anything to keep that intact?
Emotionally managed by Parkinson's, or
Yeah, or dealing with the fear of you having Parkinson's, which is natural for a child to have that,
yeah,
right, on first reaction.
Um, One thing I've always told her is I'm always going to try for you. I've always tried to make sure that it comes a little trite, a little cliche, but what I say is I always tell her that I Parkinson's doesn't have me, I have Parkinson's.
Nice.
So I always say I'm going to try for her. She knows sometimes she can recognize now when I'm not feeling right. There is off periods, there is times where I just can't do it. And I can tell her, hey, listen, sweetie, dad's not up to it for it right now. Maybe in 15, 20 minutes when my meds kick in, or we just sit down and watch some TV, or but yeah, I'm always going to try. I always tried to make sure that it was, she had a normal childhood as possible. But what is normal? Um, like she wants me to go back. We were doing archery. I put her in archery and she really liked archery. So I said, I'm going to try it. And she wanted me, after COVID's over and all that stuff, she actually asked me the other day if I'd go back with her because that was her favorite time in archery. And her and I used to shoot arrows. I
That's
know it
fun.
seems kind of crazy. Yeah, it is fun. But I'm not sure what everybody else thought of it with the shaky guy pulling back on an arrow, not knowing where it's going to fly.
But you're right. I mean, this is, what every father would do for their child is just to honestly try, right? And to be
Yeah,
there for them. That's what really counts at the base of it.
yeah. Well, it wasn't her choice to be here. And I just want to make sure that she has a great time and she's got good memories of her dad.
I'm sure she'll get absolute strength, both, mentally and emotionally from this. And you've got a big competition coming up. I wish you well on that. That's another hill. Do you have any goals? You've done the alliance, the Physique Alliance. You're doing Speaker Slam. Do you have any other goals after that you want to accomplish?
Well, I think I was saying on one of my videos, like a year ago, I decided to just, uh, I jumped out of one relationship into another relationship and decided that, hey, I'm going to be alone for a bit. And I started listening to these self-help, personal develop type of things. And one of them said, be yourself and unapologetically and go for your goals.
So that's what you're striving for as a mantra.
Well, really what it is I'm pulling the thread. Things are things are happening. I mean, you and I met in Rotary, and we don't know why we met, like the whole Alan Watts thing. But here I am doing your podcast because of that one simple meeting, right?
Yeah.
So Peter Hernandez, he took third in Speaker Slam, and I met him in Rotary. And well, I guess the whole story would go was I did those. I decided to take this goal and do the physique competition, and I completed that goal. And then Peter Hernandez called me and said, "You should really tell your story. You've got a lot of you've you've got a lot of good stuff to share with people." So I followed that string, and then, like I said, you with the so that competition is tomorrow night on Wednesday, and I'm gonna see how I do there. And it's kind of a 6 month commitment, and hopefully I'll be able to be some sort of motivational, inspirational speaker to a point. I will be getting deep brain surgery, deep brain stimulation, help me with my Parkinson's. It'll help me get rid of the tics and involuntary movements that you'll see in my videos and things like that. It'll help me. I'll still have to take medication, but I'm going to lessen my medication. So hopefully we'll see some improvement from that. And then on in, I'll just keep following the string. Wherever things go.
I like that. Yeah.
So,
And yeah, I think I was recently, Tony Robbins was talking. He's got a new book coming out called Life Force, where he's addressing novel, medical advancements and techniques. And one of them had to do with Parkinson's, where I think they're putting a laser into the brain, isolating that part, controlling the motor movement, and stopping that. So I'm sure, I'm confident that there's going to be positive results in the future for this. Listen, Martin, I really want to thank you for being on this podcast. And I want to acknowledge your command of adversity, because, some people that I see, they take up a challenge and they just get to neutralize it. But here you're absolutely crushing it, and you're owning it, and, fully and powerfully, making it your own, using that I word to say that you control it. And that's what controls the future for a person, right? Is to take that ownership, accountability, responsibility, and have that positive mindset to go forward. And already, for those who'd be listening to this, I'm sure they're going to get inspired. And, that's proof that you've already done your motivational speaking. Thank you again for being on the podcast, and I wish you well.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's a great time.
Good luck at Speaker Slam.
Thanks. I'll let you know how it turns out.
Awesome. Okay, thanks.